Hey,
Okay, we're
everybody.
on. Go, Tamara.
Yeah, I'm here. Yep. Hey, everybody. Tamara Holloway here, Diamond Ambassador, and we are so excited for you to join us for our Voice of Experience monthly calls with some of the top leaders in Plexus, people that you have requested to hear from. And tonight might be my favorite Voice of Experience call so far because it's a dear friend of mine, Carissa Casey. Carissa is my level 3. She's a Sapphire Ambassador, and she has become a fast friend. I remember, goodness, it's been at least a year and a half ago, Carissa, but we were at Local Line with a big group of people, and I think Carissa was a gold ambassador at the time. And I remember her just asking so many questions, and she still was just a little bit skeptical of the business. And I remember thinking, if this girl ever believes 1,000% in this company, which she does now, like 2,000%. If you follow her on Facebook, you'll know that. But I remember thinking, if this girl goes all in, she will be a diamond. I knew it with everything in me. And she is right on the cusp. She is heading to diamond. And I know she will be a diamond in 2017. She is a go-getter, she is a firecracker, she is passionate, and she loves people. And I am honored to introduce her to you guys tonight. And she's gonna be talking about one of my favorite topics. She has so much wisdom to offer in so many areas, but we decided that we were gonna have her share tonight about verbiage because there's such a power in your words. There's such a power in being effective in this business with how you word things. And so I cannot wait for you guys to hear from her just about the power of the tongue and how you speak things and, you know, influencing others and inspiring others to action, which that's what this business is. This business is inspiring others to act. So, all right, Carissa, take it away.
Okay, awesome. So can you see me? Is everything working? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, well, I've done a few calls on the topic of wording before, and the biggest thing I want to say right off the bat is what you take away from this call should not be any scripts, because scripts will make you appear like a robot. They will make you appear like a robot to Facebook and get you thrown in Facebook jail, and they will make you appear like a robot to the people that you're reaching out to. So nothing that I give you tonight is meant to be copied and pasted and sent to all of your friends lists. This is meant to be inspiration, and these are meant to be, what I like to say is get little sound bites, because I'm somebody who has sort of studied the other successful people that inspire me in Plexus. And I oftentimes will go, oh, I love the way Sonia said that, or oh, I love the way Tamara said that. But I don't go home and say the exact same thing. I take sound bites, I take phrases, and I incorporate them into my own business, but I make them sound like me. So I just want to make sure that as I'm talking about wording, at no point are you just taking what I'm saying and regurgitating it back up. Take sound bites and take inspiration and make it you so that the people you're talking to hear you. So that's the first big thing I wanted to say. But and I just feel like I need to reiterate that because I'm about to say a lot of things that are it's gonna remind you of like memorizing lines in a play, and that can tend to sound really canned and really scripted unless you have that in mind of not sounding like a robot. Okay. So I wanted to first just recall back to an earlier time in my life. Before Plexus, I worked at a financial office as an assistant to a bunch of financial representatives, and they were trying to, of course, sell financial products like life insurance and investments, and they were trying to go out and get new prospects and get new clients, and it was really similar in a lot of ways to what we do now with Plexus. And I remember part of my job there was helping onboard the new young reps and help them get going, get a business built. And one of the crucial steps that they had was they had a notebook. It was called their language, and they had to memorize their language. And they had to actually like show to the managing director of our office that they had their language down pat. And so, and it was fabulous language. There's so much power in how we word things. Because, for example, if someone called you up and said, hi, I want to meet with you sometime and see if you'd be interested in buying some life insurance from me, you would go running for the hills. But what they were trained to do was to say, hi, so-and-so. I was recently talking with Tamara Holloway, your good friend, and she just had such good things to say about you. She spoke so highly of you, and I knew that you were someone I wanted to get to know. And that's just one example, but there's so much power in that wording. And so it was so crucial that those young reps have that language in their vernacular. And so in the same way, I feel like that's a skill that we in Plexus need to take seriously. Bob Heilig has that training program. I mean, like, it's worth investing in, it's worth studying, it's worth looking at other ambassadors and going, I love how they say that. I want to remember that. I want to write that down, and like make wording and verbiage something that you really work on. But again, at the same time, not something that you just adopt exactly what people say, because people can tell if every Facebook post is copied and pasted, and this one's from Rachel Rogers, and this one's from Timmy Yancey, and this one's from Jessica Heffley. They're kind of like, well, why does she look like a schizophrenic? Like, sometimes she's like all Southern and saying y'all, and sometimes she's like talking in all caps for no reason. They can tell that that's not you, and you really have to watch that. But I just wanted to remind everybody about, like, this is a skill and it takes practice. And just like if you want to be in a play, a star in a play, you're going to have to really memorize your lines until they come out naturally and effortlessly. I also want to recall back to something that a lot of you probably don't remember. You may not have been in Plexus yet, but 2 years ago at convention, we had Tom Schreider, he goes by Big Al. Big Al Schreider spoke at convention, and I was just furiously taking notes because it was just gold. It was such good stuff. And he was talking about using better words and just how words have such a power to either put people on the defensive or open them up to hear your message. And so I wanted to share a few things with you from Big Al's talk. And then I have a few links to a few of his training videos that I thought maybe when Tamara posts the recording, I can share those links to a few of his training videos. But real quick, I just wanted to kind of go over a few of those things that he went over in that talk, especially for those of you who weren't in Plexus at the time. He said, people make up their mind about whether to buy or join you within seconds of you starting your presentation. They do not make their decisions based on information. They make their decisions based on you, based on if they trust you and they want to do business with you. The information we provide them in our presentation is not the determining factor in whether someone trusts us. It's actually what we say and the image we convey in our first few seconds. That's what gets our prospect to trust and believe us. And if they trust and believe us, then they are willing to hear our message. And that comes into play a lot when we are reaching out to new people about Plexus, because what I see happening so often, and Presley Swaggerty says this all the time, the invitation is not the presentation. When we are starting a conversation with somebody, we're inviting them into the conversation. We're inviting them to talk with us about Plexus. We are not presenting Plexus to them before they've given us permission to do that. And they will not even hear our message until they decide that they trust us and believe what we say. So before you launch into anything about Plexus, you have to develop trust and rapport. Anyway, back to Big Al Schreider. He says the easiest way, the human mind, this is about like the psychology of our wording, by the way. This is stuff that your brain does without your control. The human mind trusts people that are more like you. The mind quickly says, if they're like me, they see the world like I do. And people want to know that you understand them and see the world from their point of view. The easiest way to do that is to instantly say one thing right off the bat that you know that you both agree on, something that you both have in common. So he gave these few examples, just saying something like, man, things are so expensive nowadays, or man, it would be great to go on a vacation every year. Or since he's a grandparent, he said, we all need more energy when those little grandbaby homewreckers come over. And so just real life examples of things you know that are common ground with that person. And then he said, the next way to build rapport is to instantly tell them a second fact that you both agree on. That at that point, the mind begins to rest, that the person speaking is trustworthy, and what they say after that is safe to listen to. And this is so huge, you guys. When we're talking to people about plexus, their salesman radar is going off like crazy. And the only goal we should have is to make them feel safe in the conversation. And that's what I see hurting people so often is they're not doing anything to turn off that salesman radar. And that should be the only goal. The only goal is, how do I make this person feel safe responding to me? How do I make this person feel safe having this conversation with me? Because then and only then will they hear anything from me in regards to Plexus, the products or the business. So immediately saying something right after that, that's another fact they agree upon. So the example he gave was, so funny. He said, let's say you meet me in the elevator and I say, I'm feeling a little pudgy today. You respond with, losing weight is so difficult and it's so tough to find time to exercise. So there you go, 2 facts right off the bat. They now know that you understand them and they can readily go along with whatever you say next. So I thought this was just fascinating psychological information that he's just sharing with us, all these secrets. The third way that you build rapport, and even little babies can discern this and they know whether or not to trust an adult, and that is by smiling. So in the back of every human brain is a signal that tells us if somebody smiles, they can be trusted. That may not be the smartest function of our brain, but it's the way it is. So if you can use your smile, you're in. In Plexus, this is where the voice messenger is so critical. I know that the voice messenger is scary for some people, but people can hear your smile over the voice messenger, as opposed to typing out a message to them that they can skim and possibly ignore. But if they're listening, they can hear your smile. And same with a face-to-face conversation, having that smile on and building that rapport. So I think that's huge in Plexus. And then there are just some special words. Again, this is all just taken from Big Al Schreider's talk, and then I'll get into some of what I wrote down as well. But I just love it. I just had to share it with you all in case any of you weren't there and didn't hear it, or if you don't remember it. Okay, so special words. One of the favorite sound bites or phrases that he gave us was to say, well, you know how, and then he went on to say, in the back of the mind, if someone hears, well, you know how, then they think, well, if I know how, then it must be true because what I know is true. And in their head, they instantly just start agreeing. So if you say, well, you know how we'd all have such an easier time dieting if we weren't hungry all the time. And they're like, yeah, I do know that. Or, well, you know how we'd all love to feel 16 again, except with better judgment. That's one of his. Well, you know how it would be great to never show up to work again. Well, you know how much we hate sending our babies to daycare. That is a soundbite that I have incorporated a lot. And it builds this instant trust, and it builds this instant like camaraderie, because they're like, yeah, I do know that. And yeah, if I know it, then it's true. Okay, here's another one. To say, I'm just curious. These 4 words are magic. Starting with I'm just curious instantly causes their mind to want to open up and help you understand whatever it is you don't know. Even with complete strangers, it's the perfect in. So if you're out and about and you say, I'm just curious, have you worked here long? Or I'm just curious, do you enjoy being a security guard? Or I'm just curious, how's your weight loss journey going? If you have a friend that's been posting about their weight loss journey, it instantly causes people to want to open up. Okay, this next one I use constantly. Saying most people. When you say most people, everybody naturally wants to be a part of that group. So, for instance, if you say like, Plexus isn't for everybody, but most people have fantastic results with it. Or if you say, most people see their results and end up wanting to tell their friends right away. Or, well, you know how much we'd all love to lose weight one time and keep it off forever. And in my experience, most people end up making a permanent life change once they get their blood sugar and their gut health in check. So you're just reiterating that this is what most people experience. And that is a little tweak, but it's so different than saying like, yeah, if someone says, yeah, you think it'll work for me? And you say, yeah, I think it'll work for you, versus saying, you know, most people really notice a difference. Most people see, and this is a big one I say, Yeah, most people in their first week start to notice healthier cravings, start to notice they're sleeping a little better, they start to notice they're not as hungry. Most people notice that in their first week. And then long term, after a month or 60 days, that's when most people start to see the really big results and changes happening. So I use that phrase, most people, a lot. And then he also mentioned the phrase, would it be okay if? And I think this is hilarious. He said, when the brain hears these words, it automatically commands the person to say yes if the request is reasonable. So if you're at a pizza buffet and you say, would it be okay if I slip in line right here? Shockingly, most people will agree to it. So going back to the example of someone being in an elevator and maybe complaining about their weight. If you say, most people like Plexus because it tastes so good, would it be okay if you tried a 3-day trial to see if you liked it? Or I'm just curious, how long have you been going to Weight Watchers? Wow, 17 years. Well, most people have a much easier time losing weight when they're not experiencing constant hunger pains. Would it be okay if I let you try a trial of our pink drink? So these are just examples. And then I've got just one more thing he said before I move on to what I had written down. He said, the problem is most people want to complain and aren't actually motivated enough to want to make a change. And so your words are so powerful in kindly inducing more pain so that people actually want to do something about their problem. So how this looks in my Plexus business is someone might come to me and say, yeah, I'm kind of thinking I want to try this Plexus stuff. And I'll say, well, what health issues are you dealing with? What caught your eye? And they'll say, oh, I have some digestive issues. I'm, some pain. I'm not sleeping great, and just really craving a lot of sugar all the time. And to me, I hear that, and they don't sound. I mean, that sounds like a kind of comfort zone to them. Like I could probably tell you that they had tried several other diets before and maybe didn't stick with them. Like, you get the idea. But what am I going to do? I'm going to say, oh my gosh, how long have you been living this way? What all have you tried? Oh my gosh, I had no idea you were suffering that much. Goodness, that's awful. How long have you been putting up with feeling that way? And then this is when the Big Al said, are you okay with living the rest of your life that way? Can you imagine? But I think I could see myself saying that after having most of the conversation. So for saying, for example, how long have you been dealing with this? Oh my goodness, that's so awful. I'm going to start praying for you right away. And then saying, are you okay with living that way any longer? I mean, can you imagine? I feel like I'd be like, no, sign me up. Shut up and take my money. So, and that can go for anything. I mean, he even said something like, are you okay with continuing to send your kids to daycare? I mean, just whatever it is that you can tell is not right with someone. Our words have the power to kindly induce enough pain to incite them to action, like Tamara said. Okay, time for a few specific examples from my business. I really feel like if the goal here is to open doors, and we have to remember that we're trying to open up conversations. We're not trying to shove all the information at them in our first encounter. We're trying to open up conversations. Showing vulnerability has been the magic key in every type of interaction for me. It unlocks the locked doors. So, for example, recently my team and I did an event. It was like an online event, which several of our teams have probably done that. And the different thing about our event was we decided it was going to be mostly live videos, and we were going to have it be mostly testimonies done via live video, and not a lot of stuff for people to read, because I felt like that's not as fun for people to log on and just read a bunch of posts. So we had this whole thing planned, and when it came time to invite people, I thought to myself, okay, what do I usually receive when somebody's inviting me to an event like this? And my thought was, I want what I send out or say to be the absolute opposite of that. I don't want anyone reading it to feel like, oh, it's another one of those. Hey, do you want to come to my LuLaRoe pop-up? Hey, do you want to come to my online Tupperware show? Hey, do you want to come to my Limelight launch? I want it to sound nothing like that, because people get so many of those things. And there's nothing wrong with those companies, but I'm just saying, like, we all know, like, we get a lot of those messages and we ignore them, don't we? So what I did was I message is super short too. People don't want to read something long. So I sent something super short and it said, hey, my sweet friend Jenna is sharing her testimony live online tomorrow night. She's super nervous, but I told her she's going to do amazing. I would love for you to pop online and listen with me. What do you say? So I don't even have to show vulnerability for myself. I can do it on behalf of someone else, even if they're not super nervous. No, I'm sure she was. But showing that vulnerability and saying, I told her she's going to do amazing. She has no reason to be nervous. I'm super excited to watch her story. It's so moving. I would love for you to see it too. I think it's really going to be a blessing to you to see her story. Just whatever I could say that sounds the opposite of inviting someone to an online opportunity event. You know what I mean? And showing that vulnerability, just like, I mean, people just can't not respond. I feel like, then that's my goal. I'm just trying to get them to be willing to talk to me. And so showing that vulnerability, I feel like in every case, people are like, how can I not answer? Okay, let's see. I just wrote down several examples of this whole like showing vulnerability thing. Hey girl, I seriously don't know why I have been so scared to just come out and ask you this, but I'm super curious if this plexus thing has caught your eye. Be honest. I want to know what you think for real. I can totally handle it. So I might send that to somebody who is part of like my college circle that's like super saturated with plexus, and I suspect that they might be annoyed with all of it, but I'm certainly not going to suggest that they're annoyed with it. But if I suspect that, then, you know, I could see myself sending something like that out and just kind of just throwing it out there, like, I don't know why I've been so nervous to bring this up with you. Goodness, like, you would think I would trust our friendship more than that. But I'm just happy. I'm curious. Have you ever thought about it? Thought about trying it? So that's one example. Let's see. Okay, sent this one out recently to someone who I felt really needed our products and really needed our business opportunity. I said, would you be open to me sharing a little bit with you about plexus? It may or may not be for you, but I can't even count the ways it has blessed me. And I just feel so pulled to ask you if you've ever considered it. So again, these are super short things. I am not launching into my story. I'm not launching into what the products do. You know, I'm opening up the conversation. Okay. At the same time, I feel like you have to understand the difference between being vulnerable and being apologetic. You have to keep the posture, your posture, that you're offering them a blessing. Like, yes, you might be intimidated about it, or yes, you know, you might be nervous or whatever, but in no way does your wording need to imply that you're in any way like apologetic for what you're offering them. So for example, like I personally have a thing about the word just. I have like a little alarm that goes off in my head. I try to avoid using the word just. So, hey, just checking in to see if you wanted to place that order. Hey, just wanted to see if you changed your mind. I feel like it's just very apologetic. Like, don't want to bother you, but so, and for that matter, don't say don't want to bother you, but, or hey, don't want to bug you, but I just, like, that just puts that idea in their head. And there's no reason to put that idea in their head. Like, the power of suggestion is huge. So please don't be the person that says, hey, I don't mean to bug you, but I just wanted to see if you would like to hear about plexus. I also don't really love the phrase no pressure, because I feel like, well, why are you suggesting that there's pressure? Like, just communicate it in a no pressure way rather than no pressure. Again, some of this is just personal pet peeves, because I have seen people go to diamond using all of those phrases, and it may just be a personal thing, but I do feel like they kind of communicate a little bit of being apologetic. So just feel like there's a fine line. Be vulnerable, be real, be the opposite of a robot, but also be so fully confident that you're offering them a blessing and that you're offering them the moon. Let's see. Okay, I want to go into just some follow-up wording tips. I've told my team this one. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, we've already heard this. But seriously, it works. First of all, follow-up. I've learned not to ever let a conversation pause without creating a next touch point, and that just eliminates so much of the follow-up, like, anxiety. Because if somebody says they're interested in plexus, we have a conversation, we, go through all their health issues, and I just, talk about how miserable that must be, and we arrive at like what products might be good, and then I'll maybe send them like those Jennifer Pickett videos and say, oh my gosh, you've got to watch this. This will explain why the triplex is so awesome. And I usually will get something back like, oh, okay, great. I will watch that and get back with you. And that's where the conversation stalls out. Or oftentimes it'll stall out with they ask you the price and you tell them and then it goes quiet. Or they say, okay, I'm ready to order. And you give them the website and then you don't hear anything for 3 days. These are like common times for the conversation to pause. So I always create a next touch point. So if they say, okay, I'll watch those videos and get back with you, I say, okay, perfect. Let's plan to chat on Saturday. That is so simple, but it's you taking the follow-up into your own hands, taking the ball out of their court. And honestly, I feel like it's just the responsible way to do business. Like that's just being professional and people appreciate it. Like, so if I just say to someone, okay, that sounds perfect. Let's plan to chat on Saturday. Then when I follow up on Saturday, I'm just keeping my word. I'm just doing what I said I was going to do and I'm following through. And so then on Saturday, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Okay, how did it go watching the videos? Tamara, are we okay? Okay, good. You popped up, so I wasn't sure. So creating a next touch point covers over so many follow-up issues. But this next tip that I have is if you happen to pause a conversation without having created a next touch point and you find yourself in that weird limbo zone where they haven't responded, it's been a few days and you don't want to come back and go, hey, just checking in, because that feels kind of awkward. This is what I do. I follow up and I say, oh my goodness, girl, I feel like a terrible friend. I know that you were ready to get that triplex going. Know you were ready to get those digestive issues in check, and I've just totally dropped the ball. I'm following up with you. I'm so sorry. Okay, I've got 5 minutes free tonight. I'm happy to walk you through it, but let's do it at 8 o'clock once the kids are in bed. So apologize. I apologize because truly it's sad that like they haven't got their order placed yet and that their products aren't on the way to their doorstep yet. And I just basically say it that way, like, oh my goodness, I should have been more on top of this. I want to get you feeling better. I'm so sorry. And so some version of that is what I say all the time if the conversation has paused without a next touch point. Okay. Then I just wrote down. Yeah.
Do you mind if I say something really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
With follow-up, I love what she said about leaving the ball in their court because it's very easy. And a lot of times I have ambassadors, they'll send me messages when they're struggling with follow-up, and almost always they're ending the conversation with, let me know if you want more information or let me know if you have any questions. And so you're leaving it up to them. And more than likely, they're not going to have any more questions and they're not going to ask you for more information. So you always want to leave the follow-up with you. And so I use all the time. In fact, I followed up with a customer yesterday who wasn't quite ready to order. And I said, I'll check back in with you in a couple of weeks before the month closes out. And she was like, oh, okay, great. And so I'm always leaving that last conversation that I'm going to come back to them at some point. So they're expecting it and they know I'm going to. So then it takes the awkwardness out. So then I'm not sitting there going, okay, how can I follow up? How can I follow up? Because I've already told them I'm going to follow up in so many words. So that is one thing I really want you guys to hone in on. Leave the ball in your court. Okay, go, Carissa. Yes.
Okay. So now I just want to talk about other kinds of wording that I oftentimes see kind of like butchered. Or not butchered, but like it could be so much better. Okay. So how to order. Like if someone asks how to order, I oftentimes see people launch into a really big, here are the 3 ways to order and here's what each way entails. And honestly, like again, people tend to shut down when you go into monologue mode. And so and I'm pulling out one of Big Al's phrases here. I say, well, most people want the cheapest possible prices. So I would encourage you to either order preferred or wholesale. And then I shut up. And then they say, okay, well, what does that mean? What's the difference? Okay, and then I can continue the conversation. But like just some of those key phrases, like most people want the best deal. And who's going to disagree with that? So that's one thing with how to order. Okay, then if somebody asks like, what's the cost of the products or how much are they? I might come back and say, well, I love that the triplex only ends up being about $4 per day. Versus saying, well, the triplex is $145.99 for a retail customer and $124.95 for a preferred. Like, you know, just like make it just. wording, word it to where they're like, oh, $4 a day. Yep. Spent more than that at Starbucks today. And you can also say that. So my whole little message might say something like, okay, I love that love that the triplex only ends up being about $4 per day. I'm embarrassed to say I spent more than that on Starbucks and soda and medicine before I found Plexus. So I might send that back, just a little 2-line thing. And if they say they can't afford the whole Fab 4 right now, I'd say, oh, I totally get that. We watch our spending really closely too. And healthy choices are definitely an investment. So I'm going to reframe it as healthy choices are definitely an investment. Not, oh yeah, I know these vitamins are super expensive. There's a big difference. So yeah, healthy choices are definitely an investment. Several of our products are under $35. The Fab 4 is ideal, but I think you'd still see amazing results with ProBio 5 and BioCleanse and start them off on a smaller combo or start them off on X Factor, just a great vitamin. There are lots of really affordable ways to do it. So using words like affordable and okay, this is a big pet peeve of mine with the money back guarantee. When you're telling people about the money back guarantee, please don't say, yeah, and if you don't like the products, you can return them. Don't even imply that they won't like the products. And now you don't have to be a crazy brainwasher and be like, oh my gosh, you're just gonna love them. There's no other possible outcome. You don't have to do that. But what I say is, okay, well, one thing I love is you get a nice long 2-month trial. And if your results aren't what you were expecting, you can get a refund. Or if your results aren't what you were expecting, because truthfully, I believe in my heart of hearts that the products will help their body heal. And most people who use the money back guarantee, it's just because it wasn't what they're expecting. They didn't understand die-off was going to be a part of this whole deal. Or they didn't understand it was going to take 60 to 90 days instead of 2 hours. So really, that's the truth, is probably it just wasn't what they were expecting. And that's usually how I word it. I don't say yeah, and if they don't work for you, I do not say that. If they don't work for you, or if you don't like them, or I don't say that. Okay, for new people, this is a little soundbite you might want to adopt. I like to, when new people get started and they're excited and they maybe tell the team, just got my welcome pack today. I like to say, I can't wait to hear updates as your body starts to respond to your products. And that's another just little tweak, because what I've noticed is if I say, I can't wait to hear about your results, then people think, well, there's not much to tell until I have results. And in their mind, results might mean losing weight, or it might mean, I don't know, getting rid of their IBS issue or whatever. And really, I kind of want them excited for their body responding, period. I want them excited if they're having die-off, because oh my gosh, your body is responding to your products. Finally, you're putting something in there that's upsetting the apple cart a little bit. No more status quo. So I really like that wording. And let me see if I wrote anything specific down. I think just it reminds them that this whole change is not all up to the product. It is their body making changes, and the products are supporting that. It reminds them to keep you in the loop, saying, I can't wait for updates as your body starts to respond. It reminds them, like I said, we're not just watching for results, because what they notice initially might not really feel like results, but we're looking for their body to respond. And then I try to just, that type of wording, I feel like that really enforces the importance of patience with the products, consistency with the products, paying attention to your body as you get started on the products, and the importance of keeping your sponsor updated. So those were the specific examples that I wrote down, and that was everything I wanted to share. So did you want to ask some questions or anything?
Carissa, I did want to ask, because I get this question often, I'd love to hear your perspective. When you're having these conversations with people and they're not asked, you've bypassed the price and you guys are moving towards, joining, and they're interested in the business, they're interested in the products. You mentioned the Jennifer Pickett videos. If someone says, I just want a good overview of all that Plexus, what is Plexus? What Plexus has to offer? What would be a video that you might send that would touch on the business and the products, or maybe a separate video of each, if you were just going to give people the best possible scenario there?
Probably Whitney War's video about why plexus. I did the research for you. I feel like that's probably a big one that I would send to anybody who was like, so why this business opportunity? Like, what's, you know, give me the scoop. I would probably give them that one. And honestly, I'd be like, let's just get on the phone. Like, I just have and maybe this is because I'm so busy, but I just have such an aversion to reading long emails. And I feel like people have to feel the same way. And so I'll usually just be like, well, I would love to give you this scoop. Like, let's jump on the phone for 10 minutes. Do you have some time tonight? Do you have some time tomorrow? Like, I'll try to keep it pretty soon while their energy level is up and their interest is up. But I feel like I would just want to get on the phone and just let them take the lead. Like, okay, well, you want to know the whole scoop? Like, you know, what caught your eye? And just take it from there. I feel like that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think sometimes newer people are intimidated by that because they don't feel like they know enough to really give a solid conversation. And so I've just been personally thinking through that as I brought some new people on board recently and just kind of thinking, you know, because back when I started, when I was bringing, you know, tons of level ones in, we didn't have anything. And so the only, you know, we didn't have a lot of videos and things of that nature. So it was me talking or just typing, you know, all the information that I had and giving that out to them. But I don't know. I just wanted your opinion on that, you know, just thinking about Whitney Ward. That was,
And for the products I've done, you know, Jennifer Pickett has one on the triplex, and then we've got the shareable one about the triplex.
Yes.
It's new. And so I've been sending that one out too.
That's a great one. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted your opinion on that. Candace, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Candace? Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Carissa, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love your, but yet you have you're compassionate and you really care too. But at the same time, I love the unapologetic. You know, you don't say no pressure. Don't say like that was just really, really helpful because I think I do that. Just checking in, like it's like you're afraid to sense that. And my other favorite part was the fact that people can hear you smile on a voice message. Like I'm going to use that. Like that's so in. So yeah, I just think this is great information. I think it's really valuable. I think we get questions about what am I supposed to say more than, I mean, a lot of the time. So I think it's going to be a great tool to have this call filed away. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so glad it's helpful. Yeah, and I do. I mean, this is partly my personality, but I study Sonia Dudley, like in the beginning. Like I watched Sonia Dudley, all her examples of how to talk to people, and I would just like, okay, I'm going to do that and that and that. And you do have to make sure you're not doing it the exact wording, but you know, if someone says something that you're like, that sounded awesome, just kind of like take a little sound bite and incorporate it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Tamara and Carissa, and we just really, really appreciate it. And our teams are going to love this information, and we're just really thankful. So y'all have a good night. Thanks.
Night, everybody.
Bye.